Hey peeps, welcome back to another episode of 3 for Thursday. Thank you for joining me. My name is Gladdy, your host. I am Heart Take the Wheel online. That's where you will find me. I'm your brand and business photographer. And today, our 3 for Thursday episode is about 3 ways to make social media easier. I get this question a lot. I decided this might be fun, especially since I've been recently helping some people out with it a lot more frequently than before. And so I thought, let's just dive into it, right? I decided that, yeah, of course, there's no blanketed answer because it really does depend on what's going to work for you and your business and your brand and your personality and what works and fits into your life, or what you can, fit into your life. These are kind of like the 3 things that I think generally apply to most of the humans that I've worked with. All right? Okay. All right, so as always, let's dive right into the content. Number 1 is to not force it. It never fails that when you're forcing growth, when you're forcing, engagement, when you're forcing followers or whatever, when you're forcing to like something, it doesn't work. It backfires almost immediately. It never fails. I've seen it in myself. I've seen it in other people. It's just the way it is. So if you're finding yourself like in the middle of the night scrolling through your gram, wondering why the needle hasn't moved or whatever, you're like kind of freaking out, and then you start Googling alternative ways to kind of really bump things up in a dramatic way. We want to see instant growth. We're used to instant results. We're used to instant, feedback and instant gratification in this world. So when we don't instantly grow by hundreds and thousands of followers or whatever, when we do something with a lot of effort or we do something that we personally love, we kind of feel deflated inside. I have a whole video about why it's not about the numbers and stuff. I'll link it in both places. I'll have it pop and I'll have it in the description. But what I want to really focus on here is about not forcing your social media. So if you're finding social media to be a struggle, if you're finding it to be just something you don't love, the first thing I would recommend you do is to not force the love. Don't force to make it work right now. Take a step back and maybe talk to somebody. Not only is forcing it like backfire just in general, but it backfires because we can see that and you can see that and you put that out there, and you can see posts that do really well come from an authentic place. They come from an honest place. They come from a place of, showing who you are and what you're about and your branding and your story, and people resonate with that, and so they engage with that, and then Instagram sees that and they show it to more people. You'll see that those posts they're about you and about your story, and they're a genuine place, right? When you're forcing it, those posts, you could tell there's just a disconnect there, and your audience can see that in what you do. So don't force it. Number 2 is to knock out barriers. So you might want to kind of think about it. Point A to point B. You want to make a post. What do you have to do in order to get there? And what's stopping you? So for a friend of mine, she wanted to post more self-portraits because her business resonated more with her posting those, and it made a lot of sense for the direction she was going, but she didn't want to start posting them until she had like a whole, selfie setup, or like a backdrop that was perfect for that, or the right lighting, or this, or had someone, hired someone to do it. I mean, I do brand photography, and I of course want you to hire me, but it's unrealistic for you to hire me for every little thing that you need in your social media, because in today's world we need so much content, right? So if you're stopping yourself because you need this or you need that, or you need this to buy like the $1,000 thing here or whatever, then those are barriers. Other barriers are just things that we're telling ourselves that we're not worth it, or we can't do this, or we don't look like that, or we don't have this to say, or we have barriers of like, we can't create content like that, so why create content at all if we can't do that? We come up with things we tell ourselves that we can't do this because, and we fill in that blank to the 9, right? And then we end up not doing it at all because we're not perfect, we're not ready. Who are we think we could do this? We don't have the right lighting, we don't have the right camera, we don't have the right gear, we don't have the right props, we don't have the right setup, we don't have the right place, we don't have the perfect house, we don't have the perfect life, we don't have whatever. And so since we fill in that blank with so many things, guess what? We never do the thing, right? So these are barriers. There are other kinds of barriers are not ones that are fully stopping us, but ones that are making it hard to do the thing that we do. So like, for example, maybe you make YouTube videos, maybe you do take self-portraits and you have the right place, but it takes setting up, or it takes, like, there's a process to it that's a little bit, laborious, or like, lengthy or intense of a process. Maybe you need to find a way to not have such an extensive difference between point A to point B, right? You want it to be smooth sailing. Like, if you randomly get inspired to create a YouTube video, how long is it gonna take for you to set everything up and start recording, right? If that's a long process and this is something that you want to make part of your routine and part of your content, then you should really eliminate the barriers. Find a setup that can stay put. Find a way to create your videos without it being like an hour of setup prior, because then if it's so in depth, you're not going to do it, right? In the moment, whenever you're ready to create content. Do you have to wait for the time of day? Do you have to do this? Like, what can you do to eliminate barriers? Is it batch creating on certain times, certain days of the week? Or is it having a setup ready to rock and roll? Is it finding, maybe if you're, taking self-portraits, maybe it's finding the spots in and around your home that you can go to no matter what time of day, no matter what, time of year. You have a set of spots that are good for different, situations, different times, that you can know where to go to get your work done, right? Find these barriers. So start writing them down, right? Like a process, like if it's social media, if it's Instagram, and you're like, okay, I wanna do Instagram stories more. And what's the barrier between point A to point B? Like, you wanna do the story and posting the story, right? What's the barrier for your YouTube video? You have an idea for a YouTube video. What's the barrier between having that idea and hitting record? What's the barrier between, I want to post more self-portraits of me and my makeup, because maybe you want to do that. I don't know. What's the barrier between, I want to do this, to doing it? Like, what are these barriers? What's stopping you? What slows you down? Figure that out, and let's find ways to eliminate these barriers, right? There are so many ways. I can't tell you all of the ways, because it really depends on you and your barriers, but just identify them and find ways to eliminate them. And it's not always one solution. We get locked into one solution sometimes. We're like, okay, to eliminate my barrier of wanting to post, like at the self-portraits I was telling you about, she was like, okay, I need a spot for it. So that means I need to buy this thing and that thing and maybe get a backdrop and set this up in a space that's always ready to go. And then it's always ready to go, and then I will not have that barrier anymore. It's like, you are essentially creating another barrier to solve your barrier problem. And that might be the case. Like, if you're in a place where that works for you, you can just buy those things and have it all set up, or you can create it with what you have, then that's fine if that's the case. But don't get stuck on another barrier though. Like, don't be, I recommend you kind of keep your eyes open, because sometimes when we find a problem and then we find a solution, we tunnel vision into that solution. And yes, it is a solution, but it's likely not the only solution. But we get into that point where it's like, that's all we see. And it takes other people and maybe talking to people about it and having them kind of recommend some other options for you to realize there are other solutions out there. I don't only need this one thing. And it's so funny how we get locked into that, especially when it requires purchasing something. We often think, okay, that's the thing that's gonna solve my problems, is purchasing this one thing. So while it is a solution, I advise you to talk to people, put your stuff out there, talk to other people, put it out there on Instagram. Maybe people on Instagram have solutions for you. Go to your Facebook group if you have one, or whatever, and go to networking groups you have and bring up this problem and your solution. Be like, what are other solutions? Because I know I'm probably locked into something. And be open-minded about it, because we often will, when we're really dedicated to that solution, we'll often come up with excuses or reasons why other people's solution suggestions won't work, because we honestly just want to be validated for our solution. That was a lengthy way of telling you to kind of identify your barriers and knock them out, right? And often the way to knock them out is what we already have with us. There's a way to do it now. We don't need to buy something or go somewhere or be someone different. So let's move on. Number 3. And number 3 has to do with curating a collection of content, whether that's photos or videos, and having it at the ready. Whether you use like Dropbox or you use whatever, or you have a gallery or something, whatever, you want to have content at the ready, and a lot of it. And if you create graphics for your business or you do whatever, I recommend finding time to create your content however you create it, or hire a photographer here and there, or whatever. Like, create your content, whether it's you, a photographer, or a mixture. It's best when it's a mixture of both you and a photographer creating content, or a videographer, or whatever it may be. Batch create, or get on a retainer with somebody. That's why I offer that kind of thing, because social media requires a lot of content these days. But it's so amazing to scroll through and have a selection of content available to you at any given time, so you are ready to promote, to post, to share, to, you know, inspire. Maybe you have something you really want to share. It's just so great to have that like at the ready and at your fingertips. No matter where you are, for any social media platform, you are ready with content. You have photos, you have videos, you have graphics, whatever it may be. So find your favorite, if you like stock images or videos, find your favorite stock sites and get a collection. Like, it takes a long time to go through stock sites. I understand that. So maybe you dedicate a day or so each month to go through and just get stuff that resonates with your brand and your messages and what you're promoting in the future, right? So collect all of those and put them in one place. It just helps your social media become easier if you have a place that you can access at any time from any device that has your photos, videos, and graphics at the ready. It's just there. It's all there. And then you can just scroll through and find the thing that matches your post best. Obviously, if you have, like, if you go back to number 2, maybe one of your barriers is you don't have a system in place. So finding a system would work to help you kind of curate your content in one place and then push it all to your system. Like, if you're using like Planoly or Later or Buffer or whatever, there's so many out there. You can often, they let you like put a bunch of photos and videos on there, and then you kind of drag and drop and move them around, and then kind of curate your feed from there. And then maybe that was your barrier, is just having a system. So look into your options for systems and play around with it. And systems work best if they have a lot of content just sitting and waiting. So that's where this content pool comes into play, is just having that content at the ready. So these are the 3. I'll sum them up again because it's a little wordy, but social media gets easier if you don't force it, if you knock out your barriers, and you curate a collection of content so that you have that ready to rock and roll. These are the ways that kind of help a lot of people I know make it easier for them. There are other ways we can dive into in the future, but these are like some really overall arching ways to kind of to really make it easier. You don't need to be searching the world every time you want to post something for a new image. Like, that's too stressful, and you're not going to do it. And if you're forcing that growth, you're not going to resonate with your audience, and then it's not going to happen. If you are making barriers between you wanting to do something and then doing it, then guess what? It's not going to happen. So this was a little rambly and kind of a little all over the place, but I really wanted to kind of talk about this a bit because it has been on my mind lately, helping out some people with their social media. So yeah, that's it. That's all she wrote. Okay. All right, guys, so that's all I have for you on this 3 for Thursday. I will see you in the next one. Hit that subscribe if you like what I'm doing, and yeah, I'll see you around on Instagram and stuff. Okay, bye.